Okay, this is absolutely stupid. It is 9 o'clock in the evening and I'm exhausted, but I really want to talk about books. Hi folks, Harry here, and today I'm going to be talking about something that I've been wanting to talk about on my channel for a really long time. Today I'm going to be talking about one of my favourite authors of all time, and that is Haruki Murakami. So even though I am known on the internet as a Stephen King fan, I actually like Murakami and King equally. It may surprise you to hear that Murakami is my favourite writer, but Stephen King is my favourite storyteller, if that makes sense. Haruki Murakami is a Japanese author, and the books that he writes fit into the genre of magical realism. And magical realism is basically a genre where the real life world is kind of interjected with bizarre happenings. I think that's the best way I can describe it. And no one does magical realism better than Murakami. So today I'm going to talk about why I love Haruki Murakami and why I think you should read his books too. I did make a video all the way back in March about how I read 7 Murakami books in 7 days. That was a roller coaster and I loved every second of it, but that video got literally no views, so if you want to hear my opinion on 7 Murakami books, then go watch that video. But let's talk about Murakami! Haruki Murakami's first 2 novels, Hear the Wind Sing and Pinball 1973, are often put together in this wind/pinball collection. And nothing really happens in these books whatsoever. It's just really incredible writing, and that is what you stick around for. Something that I often experience when I'm reading Haruki Murakami's works that I don't often experience with other authors, even Stephen King, is that even if I don't enjoy the storyline, I will stick around for the writing. So far I have read 14 Haruki Murakami books, and my least favourite of them has been Pinball 1973, but I rated it, I believe, 2.5 stars, just because the writing was phenomenal. Murakami wrote my favourite book of all time, and that is Kafka on the Shore. And if you haven't been following me on social media, yes, this is my new favourite book. I finished it maybe a week ago, and it overtook Firestarter by Stephen King. Kafka on the Shore is my favourite book of all time. And this book is absolutely crazy. We've got a man who can talk to cats, fish rain from the sky, Colonel Sanders, the KFC guy, appears in this book. It's absolutely bizarre. And the best term that I can use to describe this book and Murakami in general is wacky and wonderful. The one thing that I always mention whenever I talk about Murakami is his use of verisimilitude. And verisimilitude is a technique that writers use to make their work seem more honest and authentic. So in Murakami's books, he does not shy away from everyday things to make his characters seem a little bit more believable and realistic. Murakami does not hesitate to talk about things like urination, defecation, masturbation. There are many topics that some authors may not want to talk about, but Murakami is very comfortable discussing, and it just makes his book seem a little bit more realistic, even if it does make you a little bit uncomfortable. Murakami also describes sex very graphically, so maybe just take note of that. But me mentioning these things, you might think that's a bit of a turn-off. Oh, graphic descriptions of sex, maybe that's not for me. Oh, this sounds too weird, maybe that's not for me. But hear me out. Murakami's writing style, even though it is translated into English, is one of the most beautiful things I have ever encountered. Norwegian Wood, which is arguably his most famous work, is quite possibly the most beautifully written book I have ever read in my entire life. This is fiction at its finest. It is a romance story at heart, and it's not actually magical realism until the very end where there's something kind of spiritual, but this kind of goes against what Murakami is known for, and it's just really nice writing. The setting of Japan itself, plus Murakami's use of verisimilitude, just make the most magical writing style I have ever seen. I think After Dark would be the best example of this. After Dark is my second favourite Murakami book after Kafka on the Shore. It's very short, so you can fly through this in one sitting. And it takes place over the course of just one night. And over this one night, we see this woman meeting loads of strange people, and it's a really entertaining read. And there are some aspects of it that are quite sinister as well, and it's really intriguing. But just the setting of Tokyo at night, it is wonderful. There are descriptions of Tokyo in the absolute beast that is 1Q84 that are just absolutely stunning. It makes you feel like you're there, and if you're not there, it makes you feel like you really want to go there. But even though Murakami's writing style is extremely beautiful, a lot of his books are very layered and very complex. I think that 1Q84 is his most complex work. This book follows 2 people whose lives interconnect throughout the book, which is a very common theme in a lot of Murakami books. Hard-Boiled Wonderland and The End of the World and Kafka on the Shore are great examples of this. But mainly with 1Q84, this book is so damn huge that there are so many connections, so many details, there are so many details in this massive book. It can be very difficult to follow at times, but do not let that intimidate you. There's a really, really great YouTuber called Kate Vale, who I will link in the description below, and she's kind of known as the Murakami fan on YouTube. And she once used a term that I think is absolutely perfect to describe the feeling of reading a Murakami book, and that is pleasantly confused. Sometimes Murakami books are so complex and so layered that you don't really understand what's going on. It can be very, very difficult to get a clear vision of everything that's going on. But again, because the writing style is so lovely, you're kind of pleasantly dazed and in a confusion that may be frustrating, but is ultimately quite satisfying because you got to experience it in the way that you did. That is a really, really horrible explanation, but I really hope it makes sense. If you're wondering about inclusivity, Murakami has included his fair share of LGBTQ+ characters in his books. There is a lesbian protagonist in Sputnik Sweetheart, which is my third favourite Murakami book. There is a transgender man in Kafka on the Shore. There is a gay character in Colours Sakura Tazaki in his Years of Pilgrimage, and there are also lesbian encounters in Norwegian Wood and 1Q84. Murakami isn't just a novelist, he's also written many short stories and a couple of non-fiction books too. His most recent release, First Person Singular, is a short story collection, and there are some fascinating stories in this that are very philosophical and very weird. There is a short story in this collection called Confessions of a Shinagawa Monkey, which is about a monkey who can speak Japanese that steals the names of the women he feels sexual desire for. It is absolutely bizarre. In terms of the length of his books, I mean, it really depends. I also want to talk about his non-fiction for a moment. Murakami's most famous non-fiction book is What I Talk About When I Talk About Running. Murakami is often known as the running novelist because even though he's in his 70s, he runs a 10k every single day without fail. And so in his memoir, What I Talk About When I Talk About Running, half of it is about his running experiences and the other half is kind of just about his writing. And this is fascinating to read. I actually listened to the audiobook of this while going out for a run, and I ran 9k, which is something that I've never done before. So Murakami as a person actually lives a very, very healthy lifestyle, and I think that's something that we can all take a few notes from. But going back to his fiction, Murakami has written so many different types of books. Like, he has written complex and intertwining masterpieces, he's written beautiful love stories, of course he's written plenty of magical realism, and he's done a few books on self-discovery. Murakami's bibliography is all over the place, so there's something for everyone. Something that I think I should absolutely discuss about Murakami is the vast majority of his books have open endings and are very open to interpretation. You almost never get any answers with Murakami books, and you often leave the book with more questions than answers. And I know a lot of people will not like that, but if you go into the book not expecting that many answers, you're expecting to be pleasantly confused and dazed, and you just want that wonderful writing, Murakami is perfect. That's all I'm going to talk about today. I really, really hope I've convinced you to pick up one of Murakami's books. If you want me to make a separate video about where to start with Murakami's works, then just let me know in the comments down below and I'll make you that video. And if you've enjoyed this video, please do give it a big fat thumbs up, and please consider subscribing for more bookish content from me. All of my social media links, so that is my Instagram, Twitter, Goodreads, Letterboxd, TikTok, all of that is in the description below, and I will see you next time with a new video. Goodbye.